Hi, and welcome to SF Live. I'm your host, Christina Marie Flores. I'd like to introduce you to our guest this evening by a quote from Left in San Francisco website. Pat Murphy is a lively presence in San Francisco political scene, covering events and moods in City Hall too often ignored by the regular print media. With his ever-present bow tie, check, and stately demeanor, check, he has been hailed as indispensable to the San Franciscans who really run the city. Please help me welcome the editor and publisher of the Sentinel, Pat Murphy. Hi, Pat.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, wonderful. Oh,
you are a great beauty.
Lovely.
Thank you for having me.
I love this guest already. You know, it's just starting out. Now, Pat, where did you hail from? Where are you originally from?
Well, it's been so long, I don't feel like I'm actually from there, but Kansas. I clicked my heels together when I was 19, and I came to San Francisco because I was gay, and heard about San Francisco as the place to come to.
Now, when you thought about this and clicking your heels at that young age, what did you imagine of San Francisco being, as opposed to when you got here, what it was like? I mean, what's the difference?
I had visited a couple of years before, so I pretty well knew what it was like.
Mm-hmm.
I expected it to be like Wichita's gay scene, only more so,
mm-hmm.
only wonderful. And at that time, this was before it became chic to quit drinking and to worry about health issues, and the streets were a lot more fun. It was packed, you know, shoulder to shoulder every night, and it was tremendous. I loved it. I squandered my youth and squandered now most of my middle age. So I've had a ball most of my life. I've done what I wanted to.
And you got plenty more squandering to go.
I hope so.
If you live it right, definitely. Now, describe to me when you first came here, how did you get into the newspaper business? How did you start that?
Well, I always had, I was always, the only natural talent I ever had was being able to put sentences together. I mean,
Okay.
I can write, I can't do numbers, I can't do anything else easily. And even as a little kid, I had one of those rubber printing press things, and I'd make newsletters and post them around.
Oh, really?
Know.
What kind of newsletters did you make?
Well, about other kids in the neighborhood. I got into marketing, too. I advertised when I had a sale on my front porch, or people could come and throw balls at bottles and win some of my junk. Or something.
So you were like a young carny?
Yes, I was a young carny.
Oh, lovely. I love that first one
Many
I've
people would say
heard.
that I still am, I think. I enjoy it.
Lovely.
In terms of what I'm doing right now, I wrote for ad agencies. I worked for GTE for a while. They had early days of computers. They were positioning these large, bulky computers around town that would spit out coupons.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew, you know, my background, and did that for a while. But it was really news that I wanted to you know, stick to your last, stick to what you know how to do and what you like to do. And I started a little black and white Xeroxed newsletter in May of 1997.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of walked into City Hall with this little flyer, announced I was the press, and you should be reading this, and so should you, and started mailing them out. And then the internet really became more viable, and it was cheaper to do online, so I went online.
Now, did they take you seriously? You just decided, okay, I'm going to do this, and you made your flyer, and you went in, you should read this. Not, would you read this, or could you look at this, but you should read this.
Oh, yeah.
Is it attitude? What sells it?
Well, it was a perfect market. I mean, electeds, people in politics, just love two things. They love to talk about themselves. All you need to ask is, what do you think? Yeah.
And 20 minutes later.
And then they love to read about themselves and see pictures of themselves. So it was really easy to get, you know, to have people recognize me and seek me out, and where's, did you bring a cameraman? And
Oh, lovely. So you found something that needed to be filled, a niche
yes,
that needed to be
yes,
filled.
yes.
And so it turned into the Sentinel, or how did that, what was the progression?
At first it was called the District 6 Sentinel.
Okay.
About that time, the first district elections were coming along. I lived in District 6. So I
Now,
followed.
District 6 is which district
Well,
now?
let's see, Civic Center, portions of Selma, the Mission, the Tenderloin, I think we're now calling it Central City.
Okay.
That's what we're calling it,
Okay.
that whole area in there. And I followed all the early campaigners around initially for District 6. There were 17, and covered all their stuff. And it was a ball. At first, it was kind of a friendly 17-person can, you know. I really liked everybody. And then people started to rise, and then it wasn't so friendly, and you know, and eventually Chris Daley took it. And
Who were your allies then? I mean, who did you really think was really going to go far in the city, and did they?
well, I endorsed Chris Daley. Gosh, way back then, it was Randy Shaw at the Tenderloin Housing Clinic, who now does Beyond Cron. Knew about my newsletter, and he called and emailed. He said, "You got to meet this guy, Chris Daley." I never heard of Chris Daley. I said, "Well, tell me about him." He says, "Well, he's 27, and he's just radical from wherever it was he's from, Virginia, I think, and he's been doing all this tenant stuff." And I was very interested in tenants things at that time. So I met him, and at first, well, I didn't for quite a while. I was an ageist. I was 27 years old.
Oh, no.
At the time. I thought, you know, come on. But eventually I endorsed him, went on to cover the board extensively all these years. They changed the name after that election to simply announced that we were now citywide coverage by changing the name to the San Francisco Sentinel.
Good for you. Board elections, back then the board elections were not neighborhood board elections. They were just a general...
Prior to that, I think this was the third switch. They kept switching them back and forth. And this was the third switch away from citywide elections to districts. Which I think are here to stay. They do deliver characters, and that scared some people. Some people don't like it. But, you know, citywide elections can do that too. Just because you've been around a long time and know a lot of people citywide and have a lot of money doesn't necessarily make you smart or less of a character or less stupid or whatever. So I think they're here to stay.
So even if the money is behind, do you think that it's still, there's no real difference between having a citywide election and having a district election if you have the right people behind you?
I think that it'd probably be more wieldy if they cut district elections down to either 7 or 5 than the current 11, because it can get, you know, the 2008 progressive sweep, they came in and within 6 months they weren't voting as a block early. They just, and they had petty personality conflicts. And I think, you know, San Francisco's devolved into the city's long nightmare of contention is over now.
That's what I was going to ask you.
I don't
the new
really
face.
agree with the politics of the progressives. I'm much more moderate. But the 4 progressives that have been elected, every one of them are already savvy. They already know the levers. They've been working in either politics or community activities, and are very they're hitting the ground. Whereas the early progressive board of 8 years ago didn't have it together enough to do it. They've extended themselves to come to the table and to work with the mayor. The mayor's had them to his penthouse. So I think really it's going to be. Now, I still think they're, at root, they hold most of the sentiments and the hopes that Chris Daley has in terms of politics. But in terms of working relationships, I think this is the best we've had this millennium in terms of city government actually doing a serious effort at working together. And I think that's going to happen.
So in order to move forward, they're being a little more tempered, and the egos are not ruling as much in the board, but they want to join as a whole and bring Gavin into the picture.
Yes. Yeah, and he's cooperating with that.